This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. A fiery debate has erupted within the walls of Parliament today over women's access to abortions. The Health Minister denies claims his office had told medical staff to only offer surgical abortions to vulnerable patients.
Entering a week of scrutiny, debate over access to surgical terminations dominated initial health talks at budget estimates.
Access to a low-cost provider is an aspect that has changed, and as I've already said, a private provider is looking to deliver that service and is in appropriate discussions with the department.
The Health Minister remaining tight-lipped about the exact timeline of future access after the state's only public clinic was closed last year. Both Labor and the Greens separately questioning whether the Minister's office had sent a memo to medical professionals, saying women could only access surgical terminations if they met certain vulnerability criteria. But the Minister denies this.
To assert that, somehow it comes from me is without evidence or foundation. It also doesn't pass the common sense test. It hasn't happened.
The debate fiery from both sides, the Minister later revealing there were currently more than 7,000 people on the elective surgery waiting list. The Premier too facing tough questions today, quizzed about potential changes to our gun laws. Mr Hodgman choosing his words carefully when asked about how he had received advice on the controversial policy from the former police minister.
What we have done is propose possible reforms that may be progressed in a new term of government and would need to pass through Parliament. Now we'll have to pass through an independent inquiry.
He initially said he had received advice verbally, but later in writing, admitting he knew Tasmanians were very sensitive about gun laws. Hearings continue tomorrow. Michelle Wisby, Southern Cross News.
A Burnie man who killed 6 little penguins at Sulphur Creek in 2016 has been sentenced to 49 hours of community service. 20-year-old Joshua Lee Jeffrey was sentenced in the Burnie Magistrates Court this morning. He's also been ordered to pay $82 for court costs. BirdLife Tasmania says it's extremely disappointed by the sentence, describing it as too lenient. The organisation says the penguin colony will take years to recover. Police are investigating a deliberately lit fire that gutted a unit in Mowbray overnight. The community housing property was unoccupied at the time.
We heard bashing on the door and people tried to shoulder the door down, so we just had a look and there was smoke coming out.
It's estimated the blaze caused $150,000 damage. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Tasmania Police is still searching for 2 men in connection to a shooting at a Hobart cocktail bar. One male has been described as having red facial hair and wearing all black. More than 10 shots were fired at Pablo's Cocktails and Dreams in the early hours of Sunday morning. Police still don't have a description of the other male. Anyone with information is urged to contact Crime Stoppers. Hobart's Lord Mayor has come under fire for his comments on the city's rise in tourism, saying it's time to slow down and put the brakes on. His comment follows another successful dark mofo, which saw almost $50 million flow into the local economy. Ruby Kamain filed this report earlier.
The Dark Mofo Festival has officially come to an end, with workers today packing up the remnants of this year's event. The controversy, however, continues, sparking from comments made by Hobart Lord Mayor Ron Christie. The alderman says mass tourism, which we've seen in the past 2 weeks, could destroy the city, and he claims the festival has crossed a line. But Tourism Industry Council Tasmania today labelled those comments as bizarre and an embarrassment to the council.
Crew attacks on Dark Mofo last week were extraordinary, and then to double down like this and essentially say that tourism's damaging the city. I mean, can you imagine what Hobart would be like now if we hadn't had the impact of Mona and the impact of the visitor growth over the last 5 years? The
Lord Mayor was unable to talk to us today, and the Hobart City Council is now reviewing the event's funding for next year.
The government's locked in for another 3 years. David Walsh is not walking away, Lee Carmichael's not walking away. So I think Dark Mofo's long-term future for Hobart secure. I think there's bugger all chance of Hobart Council cutting its support for Dark Mofo, and that's perhaps again why I question why Lord Mayor's motivations are here.
This year's festival saw 15,000 tickets sold to interstate and international visitors. and it's expected to keep attracting more each year.
A warning now, the vision in this next story may distress some viewers. A Tasmanian abattoir investigated over allegations of animal cruelty has been cleared of mistreatment. The Department of Primary Industries, Parks, Water and Environment began an investigation into operations at Gretna Meatworks in 2016. Footage supplied by animal welfare groups was considered as part of the investigation. In a statement released today, DePipwe says ongoing audits of the facility found the company is complying with animal welfare requirements. A project aiming to speed up travel time on the Midland Highway is a step closer to commencing after Tasmanian company Vexshore was announced as the preferred contractor. The Perth Link Roads project will divert traffic around the town instead of going through. It's hoped the works will also reduce noise and traffic congestion in the area. Construction will begin later this year and is expected to be completed by the end of 2020. One lucky Launceston Tats Lotto player has hit the jackpot, winning $2 million. The newfound multi-millionaire couldn't believe her luck and came forward this afternoon after Tats announced it couldn't find the winner.
How would you spend $2 million?
I'd travel the world and never come back.
Buy a better house and a better car.
Move to the mainland and go to a really good university.
That dream has become a reality for one Launceston Lotto player, who is now $2 million richer after Saturday night's draw. The lucky winner, who wishes to remain anonymous, says she is still in shock after checking her ticket on Sunday morning. The mystery millionaire purchased the ticket from Monaghan's Lucky Agency on St John Street. The shop's employees say they were overwhelmed by the news.
It's been chaotic. A lot of people coming in, is it me, is it me? The phone hasn't stopped ringing.
The winning ticket was unregistered, so when the numbers were called out on Saturday, Tats was unable to contact her.
Tats has reminded their customers to register their entries so that any lucky millionaires can be notified as soon as possible.
The Lotto winner says she plans to spend her winnings on her children. Harry Murtaugh, Southern Cross News.
Well, record low crowds at AFL matches in Hobart and Launceston this season are putting the spotlight back on local support for the game. Less than 10,000 people watched Hawthorn play the Gold Coast on the weekend, sparking calls for better fixturing around other events.
It's a sight no football fan wants to see. Rows of empty seats rejecting the Hawthorn Gold Coast fixture on Saturday. The crowd of 9,007 is the lowest in the venue's history. And it comes after Blundstone Arena recorded its lowest AFL crowd of 7,194 when the Kangaroos faced the Giants in round 9.
I think the sad part is the AFL seem to be having the opinion that Tasmania doesn't matter as much as other areas. They seem to be concentrated very much on the Gold Coast and they concentrated very much on Greater Western Sydney area.
Launceston's mayor says Saturday's crowd figure is concerning, but no cause for alarm. But the record shows Tasmanians are still better at supporting the games they get than those on the Gold Coast. Hawthorn's last 6 opponents in Launceston had better attendances on average than when those same teams last played at Metricon Stadium. The difference is even greater in Western Sydney. That same pool of teams averaged crowds of just over 9,000 people when they last played at Spotless Stadium. Albert Van Zetten says the weekend's game going up against Dark Mofo and local football is partly behind the dent in numbers.
I'd love to see the NTFA be stronger and make sure there are no games on, or very few games on, when the AFL is in town and Hawthorn's in town.
It's something the NTFA says it makes every endeavour to do. The league says it has managed to reschedule games around AFL in the past, but concedes it isn't possible every time. While fans we spoke to say they want to see more variety.
There's only the same sort of teams all the time, and I reckon they should have, a few other different teams.
Bring some more security games down. I'll be happy. You don't get big in numbers, there's not going to be any more games down here, full stop.
Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
A prototype neonatal intensive care room is allowing staff to train for the day when services move to the new K block. The new facility at the Royal Hobart Hospital will house around 50 beds, many of them in private rooms. Visiting the site today, Health Minister Michael Ferguson says it's not just the building that's getting a makeover.
There's significant provision in the redevelopment budget for furniture, fixtures and equipment so that we are moving into facilities that are appropriate, contemporary, state-of-the-art, and that includes, of course, any necessary equipment to support that.
The new facility is expected to be completed by mid-next year. Tasmania is playing a huge role when it comes to heart research. The Menzies Institute today showcasing some of the current projects being funded by the Heart Foundation. 4 scientists displaying their work aiming to tackle one of the state's biggest killers.
Yeah, unfortunately in Tasmania we have the highest incidence of heart disease in the country. It's critical that we continue to fund heart research. We're a long way from an Australia free of heart disease. There's a lot of work still to do.
The Heart Foundation has contributed $2 million to the projects. A riding school near Launceston has begun construction on a new ramp in a bid to become more inclusive. The volunteer-based organisation uses horses and ponies to help students overcome their barriers. The new addition set to help those living with physical disabilities.
It might look like these guys are just horsing around, but it seems ponies like Star at Pegasus Riding School make for good therapists.
The interventions that we have with horses often transpire to be therapy for some people that come here.
Run almost entirely by volunteers, the group uses horses and ponies to help its students break down barriers, and for many the results are life-changing.
They've helped me to be strong and helped me to gain experience of horse riding. I just like horses in general.
We've seen lots of amazing improvements like great increases in core strength and ranges of movement of people, as well as just confidence and lots of social skill improvement.
Soon the group will be able to reach more people with the construction of a new ramp to help those with physical disabilities. For some, just getting on a horse can prove a challenge.
Mounting a horse for the first time can be fairly daunting. It will allow a person with a wheelchair to come right up and be easily removed and popped onto a horse at their level.
The riding school prides itself on all-inclusiveness, and its additions like this that means riders of all abilities can take part. And with almost half of its students living with some form of disability, the assistance is needed.
Once they start to learn to ride or they learn to handle horses, to work with the animals, you can see a certain level of confidence come out in them.
Judy Augustine, Southern Cross News.
Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has lost ground after losses in the finance sector following Commonwealth Bank's announcement it will spin off its wealth management business. The ASX 200 index fell 14.8 points. And a short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 74.25 US cents and 107.65 New Zealand cents.
Tigers coach Trent Bomella says his team is brimming with confidence after an impressive win against Launceston on Saturday. And he's been quick to single out the performances from his less experienced players who neutralised some of the league's best in the 15-point triumph.
Missing experienced on-field leaders including Marcus Davies and Ryan Matthews, Bomella lauded the team effort that beat the Blues. He also singled out second senior gamer Micah Reynolds for keeping league-leading goal kicker Mitch Thorpe to one major.
After we didn't want to be the kings of the honourable losses anymore, getting, with 3-4 goals within teams. So relief, reward, and just great to see the boys have that smile on their face.
He says the weekend's win was just reward for a developing group that's been close to pulling off a number of upsets in 2018.
We try to shut down ball movement. We aim to hold that under 25 each week. That's one of our key KPIs, and we had that under 20 on the weekend.
And it hasn't happened by chance. Will Campbell says hard work on the training track is paying dividends.
Yeah, we've been doing scenario training like red time goals and things like that, where we actually put the clock up on the scoreboard and we're 4 goals down or 4 goals up and we want to play a different way or lock the contest down or something like that. So we have been training about that, and more mentally as well.
The Tigers' next test will be against Clarence, with Matt Code available for selection after escaping a 1-week sanction for staging. He accepted a reprimand with an early guilty plea. Andrew McCarthy, Southern Cross News.
And the votes are in for the RACT Insurance Player of the Year after round 13. Daniel Joseph in another best on ground performance for Glenorchy in its crushing win over Clarence. Robbie McManus of Lauderdale gets on the board, picking up 3 votes in the game against North Hobart. And Mika Reynolds taking full points for the Tigers in its shock win over Launceston. To the leaderboard, Daniel Joseph is out in front on 12 votes, Ryan Bailey is on 10, while Jay Bowden is a vote behind. Tasmanian Cameron Worth has clinched a place on the podium at Ironman France. The endurance athlete did it with a super effort on the bike, breaking a course record. Diving into the Mediterranean Sea, Cameron Worth drifted to the back of the pack, but the 34-year-old from Sandy Bay proved why he's a beast on the bike. He started with a 5-minute deficit at the beginning of the ride, but pushed out an incredible pace to hit the front. His race record time on the bike had him in good stead for the run, but he couldn't hold the lead until the end, eventually crossing in third. It was a golden day out in Austria for the women's fours, featuring Tassie rower Sarah Hoare. The crew trailed Great Britain at the halfway mark of the race, before the Aussies upped the stroke rate in the final 500 metres. Relief for the local rower, claiming a gold medal. The final World Cup of the season is in Switzerland next month. An error-riddled semi-final saw Tassie paddler Daniel Watkins incur numerous penalties in a Kayak World Cup. Watkins finished outside the top 30. The next World Cup is in Poland next weekend. And Eddie Ockenden's Kookaburras have had a 2-1 win over Pakistan at the Champions Trophy. Hundreds of Tasmanian school students are taking time out of the classroom this week to test their skills in a new 3-on-3 basketball tournament. 3v3 is fast becoming the new Big Bash, following its inclusion in the 2020 Olympic schedule in Tokyo. And with the search on for Australia's next Ben Simmons or Paddy Mills, organisers say events like these help young players dream big.
It's the 3rd most popular junior sport in the world, following association football or track and field, then basketball. So when we floated the idea of starting this new style of competition, the teachers were right behind us.
Today's event was also supported by the Hobart Chargers, who were on hand to present prizes to the winning schools.
Good evening. Temperatures crept above average today. Hobart and Devonport 14, Launceston and Burnie 16 degrees, and that was the high also recorded by St Helens and Friendly Beaches. Flinders Island and Smithton 14, King Island, Low Head, Ouse and Strawn 13, Lyawini at top of 8, but the big news is Lyawini did not have our overnight low. That prize went to Launceston and Ross with -1. A few showers over the west and far south today with low level cloud there, mostly cloud free over the central north and northeast of the state. A large amount of low cloud too sits over the Bight and southern WA, running under a high pressure system. A fair bit of cloud over Queensland as well. Another cloud band approaches Western Australia with a cold front. The highest lies over our region tomorrow, extending a ridge a long way to the north. A surface trough remains over inland Queensland and that cold front in the west. West northwesterly winds at 5 to 15 knots, reaching 20 knots over the south, but variable at times over the northwest and upper east. Hobart, fine, mostly sunny, 14 tomorrow, 12 the top for Adventure Bay, an early frost for Tarraleah and 10. Launceston, fine as well tomorrow, a morning fog to start the day, bit of frost too, 14 the top, 13 for Devonport, sunny for Bridport and 14 degrees. Partly cloudy for Burnie, 14, a shower for Strawn, 13 the maximum and 13 for Marrawar, and in the east fine and sunny. St Helens 14 along with Whitemark, Swansea a top of 15 degrees. Wednesday now and fine apart from the chance of showers in the far west, light winds and an early frost. Areas of morning frost on Thursday, mostly fine with a chance of a shower again in the west and far northwest and showers over the north and west on Friday, extending right across the state during the day. Partly cloudy in Perth tomorrow along with Adelaide, Melbourne and Sydney, -4 to start the day in Canberra, and the post-origin gloom continues over Brisbane with a shower there tomorrow. Current conditions in Hobart, clear and 10 degrees, Launceston 7 at the moment, and Devonport clear and 9 degrees. Joe, I have been issued with my official Give Me 5 for Kids t-shirt for tomorrow night's telethon. Yes, it is extra medium, and as you can tell, we don't spend a lot of money on our shirts because we're raising money for the hospital.
Extra medium. I'll have to have a check of that one. Thanks so much, Murph. It's going to be a great day tomorrow. From all of us here, have a lovely evening. We'll see you a bit later with updates. Good night.